Hey YouTube, here to do another movie review, this time of Fast and the Furious 7, or is it Fast 7, Furious 7, Fast 7, Fast Furious? Anyways, so to preface this, I had a very low expectation for this movie, and it didn't reach that expectation. And I just had low expectations because this franchise is becoming exceedingly ridiculous, and this entire movie has literally nuked the fridge. Um, that's okay. Some people are like, well, it's just an action movie, and you shouldn't have high expectations for them. You're right, I shouldn't, but I should still have standards, and so should movie directors. Three reasons why this movie is ruined for me. First and foremost, this movie has too much Dos Ex Machina. Dos Ex Machina is a cinematic term for basically by the act of God. And it refers to a time when your hero is at the brink of death, and by some miracle, he makes it out alive and unscathed. But literally every 5 minutes of this movie, there's a moment like that where someone's jumping off a cliff, or someone is driving a car off a building, or jumping out of a helicopter, or something along those lines, and they literally come out of it without a scratch. And it's just too much, much too much. Um, yeah, I think what best exemplifies why it bothers me is it's lazy writing, and these moments are best exemplified for me when spoiler alert, The Rock is in the hospital throughout the whole movie, because in the beginning of the movie he had to jump out of a window because Jason Statham is seeking revenge and trying to kill people, because Jason Statham's brother was from the last movie. The Rock is hospitalized this whole movie with a broken arm, broken leg, broken spleen, or whatever. And the third act's happening in LA, explosions happening everywhere, cars being hunted by a helicopter and a drone, and The Rock looks out the window, sees explosion, looks on the TV, sees breaking news, stuff happening in Los Angeles, what's going on? Explosions everywhere. The Rock proceeds to, well, I better get in the saddle, or whatever he said, back in the saddle, better get back on my horse, whatever he said. Breaks his cast, stands up from the hospital bed, throws on a Kelver vest, grabs his 500 Smith & Wesson revolver, which for some reason is in the hospital, walks out of the hospital. Cut to some other scene, cut back, he's driving an ambulance, cut to some other scene, cut back. Drives the ambulance off of a bridge onto the drone, gets out of the ambulance unscathed, grabs a Gatling gun from the drone and starts shooting down a helicopter. And that wasn't even the most ridiculous scene of the movie. There were two others which were clearly worse that I won't ruin for you, because it might be cool if you like that sort of thing. Number two reason why this movie is ruined for me is the writing. Cinematic elements that is imperative for the quality of a movie is the writing. I mean, in a movie you have to be supporting the motivations for our characters, and you support none of the motivations of the characters, or of any of the characters. The second act, Terrell is approached by some military guy, and he says, oh, we hunt shadow agents, and we have to hunt Jason Statham. We'll help you get him if you get this microchip for us. Totally MacGuffin. And if you get this microchip for us, we'll get you this agent. They get the microchip after some ridiculous plot, which is another nuke the fridge moment. They get the chip to the military guy, and he's like, oh, okay, you got me this chip, you now get these 12 guys, go get them. Vin Diesel's like, 12 guys? Oh, okay, whatever. Fast forward to Jason Statham and getting the 12 guys, and the head agent guy who's running the thing for some reason is trying to get him too. And these guys have guns pointed to Jason Statham's head, and they could have ended it right there. But they didn't. And Jason Statham escapes by having his terrorist buddies bust in and shoot at people. You have this device that, by the way, this device, this MacGuffin, can tell you where everyone is at all times. And you don't know that this building is surrounded by terrorists. It's just, frustrating. Anyway, the third final reason why it was ruined the movie for me is cinematography. There's no excuse for a movie having this high of a budget for having that crappy of a cinematographer. I literally was not this sick in a movie since I watched Cloverfield, and this movie wasn't overwhelming when it came to shaky cam. But the fight scenes in the movie was basically like walking into a disco and there being strobe lights everywhere. Just literally Jason Statham, The Rock, Vin Diesel, Ronda Rousey, and Tony Jaa all being in this movie still cannot put together a decent fight scene because there were so many cuts. I follow the Jackie Chan rule of fight cinematography. Like Bruce Lee couldn't have saved this movie even in a fight scene, seriously. And then there was other things like there being a spinny camera and then static camera, spinny camera, then static, spinny, then static. And that was a conversation, and it didn't make sense at all. There would be this thing that if experimental thing being used, and it's like you do it once and it's like, okay, cool, that was cool. You do it 5 times, it's like, what the hell is this thing where they tilt the camera really quick and bring it back? You're looking at a screen that is 100 feet big. If you're looking at that and you're seeing this, you're gonna get sick. And also there were random things like tilted camera, just tilted, very tilted. For what reason, I have no idea. It's like, when you're watching a movie, you want to feel like you're in the movie, you want to feel like you're experiencing what the actors are feeling, and I don't want to feel like someone who had a stroke when I watched a movie, because my head being stuck, tilted like this. And I know this is really screwed up of me to be so hard on this movie, because it had good parts, and Paul Walker's memorial was very nice, and they also honored that and had it make sense with the whole subplot about Brian's character being domesticated, which, by the way, I thought was the most grounded part of the movie. So those were some redeeming factors. But I think more than any other franchise, this franchise and this movie exemplifies what is wrong with Hollywood today. You have 7 incarnations of the same story, basically, and the same franchise. There are 2 trains of thought, to wrap this up, to just talk about something random. There are 2 trains of thought when it comes to Hollywood today. There are people who either disagree with Hollywood today and who's making all the money, and there's people who agree. Those who agree like movies like Fast and Furious 7 existing because they think, oh, it's great, it's making money for the studios, and it is good for the industry because more money equals more business equals more people working equals more of a future for the industry. But unfortunately, the huge downside is what causes the negative, which is why I disagree. If you have all these movies being funded like Fast 7, Mission Impossible 5, Mad Max 3, Jurassic Park 4, Terminator 4, Alien 6, Prometheus 2, Blade Runner 2, Men in Black 4. I'm not joking. These are all movies coming out in the next few years. Finding Nemo 2. When you have all these movies being made, you're taking away from movies that should be seen. It's art. Art is something that expands your perception around the world, about the world around you. And I'm not saying you have to make Citizen Kane or Godfather Part 2 to be considered a decent film. But you have to at least try when you make a movie. You can't half-ass it and have special effects make everything okay. And in closing, don't watch it. Wait for Blu-ray and rent it, because although it is really entertaining, it's going to leave you angry at the end, because although you can suspend disbelief, for this movie you'd have to expel belief, and that's just not okay. Anyways, signing off. Thanks, guys.